Good evening and welcome to another episode of Seriously Mental with Chris Shaw. Tonight's guest, Anna Morgan, mental health therapist, certified clinical trauma professional, and founder of Medela Therapy. As always, Seriously Mental is filmed before a live studio audience. Member. And now your host, comedian and mental health certified peer support specialist, Chris Shaw. Oh my gosh. Hey, how are you? Whoa. I'm wearing a very similar outfit. Thought I might change later. But anyway, hey, good evening and welcome to another episode of Seriously Mental, the show where we look at issues around mental health and mental wellness seriously. Seriously? Seriously. And we still try and have some fun. I'm always excited that we have guests from a wide spectrum of Minnesota and the nation's top practitioners and clinicians that work in the field of mental health. We're in the midst of a serious situation right now. I don't think it's any surprise that we're all trying to deal with what now they are calling by its specific diagnosis name, COVID-19, and moved away from the more general term coronavirus, which I think nobody right now is happier about that than Corona beer. The correlation between their brand and the illness has been unmistakable to many people. And I think they really missed the boat when they had the opportunity right from the beginning to come out and say, Corona beer, the antivirus. They might have boosted some sales with that. But there's a lot of things going on out there. People are sheltering in place. Whoever thought that toilet paper would be an item that we would bid for on eBay. I'm making my own at home now, which is, like our forefathers did, leaves and bark for those particularly rough days. And yes, I have a rash. Thank you for asking. But I'm trying to stay well with my mental wellness, and that's a lot of connecting with people. I'm getting on social media, and I'm having conferences on the web, which is amazing to me because it's so freeing to connect with people nearly face to face and not have to wear pants. So I'm a big fan of that. We're going to get going. Right after the break, we're going to have our first guest from Medela Therapy. It's therapist Anna Morgan. Stick around.
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. So I just did me some talking to the sun, and I said I didn't like the way he got things done, sleeping on the job. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. But there's one thing I know, the blues they send to meet me won't defeat me. It won't be long till happiness steps up to greet me. Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free.
Hi, and welcome back to Seriously Mental. My name is Chris Shaw. I'm the executive director of the Heart and Mind Connection, a Minnesota nonprofit that focuses on mental health advocacy, education, and awareness around the issues of suicide prevention and mental wellness. I'm also a certified peer support specialist and a stand-up comedian. And many people talk about that, wow, it seems like comedians get into that job because they had a really hard childhood. Well, not all the time, but My situation, that's true. I suffered many setbacks as a child that had to do with trauma, which is why I'm so glad that we're here today with our guest, Anna Morgan. She is a trauma-specific clinical therapist, and she's the founder of Medela Therapy. She's going to tell us more about what she does in her work. Please welcome Anna Morgan.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so glad you could make it, Anna, and I'm so glad that you're practicing your social distancing by staying 6 feet away. That's right. It seems a lot farther, doesn't it?
Yes, it
than,
does.
Than we'd ever imagined. You know?
I know, yeah, it seems, yeah, especially because I'm Latin, so Latins don't have a lot of social distance. So this for us is like a lot further than it is for you.
Well, people are using me as an example now because I'm exactly 6 feet tall. So I was at the grocery store and somebody asked me to lay down so they could be on either side of me and know how far away to be. So
oh, wonderful.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Wow.
Welcome, and tell us a little bit about what you do and what your background is.
Okay. So I work as a mental health therapist, and I am a certified clinical trauma professional, which means I work with people who have experienced trauma and like developmentally, like when they were growing up or as adults. And a lot of the people, when you experience trauma, you become, your physiology is completely dysregulated. So my passion really is emotion regulation through the body.
Tell me what that means, to emotionally regulate.
Okay. So do you know when people think about anxiety, they talk about anxiety. And so when someone is anxious, their emotions, their physical arousal is really high. They have a lot of energy in their body. When someone's depressed, it's the opposite. They have very little energy in the body. So much that people, they're like deeply depressed. Some of them can't even get up to brush their teeth. So which means they have like very low energy. Mm-hmm. And people that have anxiety, panic attacks, their heart's racing really fast, their muscles are tense, they have too much energy. So I'm very focused on the physiology of emotions regulation because that's how it shows up in mental health. So people that have experienced trauma, they lost the autonomic resilience in their bodies, so which means the ability to self-regulate.
Okay, so are you saying for somebody who might be dealing with depression and in how very often we hear signs and symptoms described as very tired or angry or irritable and things like that, are you saying that there's this connection that drives that in the body and we're trying to disconnect those?
So, for example, I think your other guest spoke a lot about the brain. So one of the things that we have a paradigm shift now that people understand the brain and the body are connected, and they're connected through neural pathways. And there's a wonderful scientist called Dr. Steve Porges. He wrote this book about the neurophysiological foundations of emotions, self-regulation, communication. And he helps us to understand how the body and brain are connected. Actually, Darwin in 1872, he knew that already. But for somehow we kind of like we forgot, and we just think that before when people talk about mental illness, they thought that's all in your head. And reality is it's connected. The head and the body are connected via the cranial nerves, via the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our body, and it connects to our viscera, which means our stomach, our heart, our lungs, our gut. It's connected to, and it makes a connection to the head, to our brain via the brainstem. So when you feel anxious, in reality, how human beings experience the world, they experience first in the body. So we have you, and then we make up a story later. So we usually think because we're mammals, we're super smart, we have this big cortex, these big brains, we think that, oh, my brain is commanding everything. But in reality, evolution has taught us that's not how it goes really. Let's say the brain has a lot of different parts. But when I talk to my clients, I do a lot of psychoeducation when I treat someone for trauma or for anything. I think that you got to educate people so they understand how this machine works. Because if you know how it works, when you learn the techniques, the methods that's going to help you to come down and to heal, you're more apt to, because you get the buy-in. You're like, oh, if I do this breathing, for example, if I do longer exhales, I can actually help my heart to slow down.
Okay.
So, for example, when I tell people they suffer from symptoms of depression, there's some things that I talk to them, some methods to do, but one of the things I say, if you take a cold shower or at the end of your shower, turn the water very, very cold, you're gonna have such a hit of dopamine, it's gonna give an increase of energy in your body. So when people understand why of doing a strategy, the reason why to do a strategy, they buy in, and I think treatment's more effective.
Wow. So all those cold showers I've been taking for other reasons
Yes.
really had a positive effect on my mental wellness.
Yes, has an effect.
No wonder. Now, tell me this. When we talk about trauma, especially from the standpoint of the terminology ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, traumas that happen, and often when I teach and when I speak, we talk about that. For the longest time, I always thought that PTSD was a soldier's disease.
Yes.
That really had to be experienced wartime. But then as I learned about what trauma can really encompass, abuse, neglect, witnessing a violent crime, being the victim of a violent crime, a natural disaster, things that come from our childhood. What's going on with people that are 40, 50 years old and still having an event from childhood have this adverse effect on their life?
Okay, I love the ACE study. I think it really brought so much light in the mental health field, because now we understand that trauma, it's not just for adults, and how really brain development is affected during childhood. Because we know that it takes about 25 years to have your brain fully wired and developed, right? So, you don't reach, full maturity, brain maturity until you're 25. So you're still making those beautiful connections. So when children they experience neglect, or they have like a parent in jail, or they have all these other experiences, you have to understand that their nervous system and their brain, they're immature, they're still developing. So they haven't formed yet the whole concept of the world. They still need support. So if something like that, you experience something as a child, you have way less resilience to deal with that. One of the things that I think they lacked on the ACE, the Adverse Childhood Study, as one of the things that not everybody is affected the same. And it's one of the things that's really missing is about the resources. Why some people were not as affected, had a lower ACE score, even though they have experienced the same similar issues, because of who else was there to be supportive. You have some resources. Sometimes, even if you had like a teacher at school and you had a horrible home environment, but you had a teacher that believed in you, that gave you some signals, some feelings of safety, you were able to deal with life in a better way. But in terms of brain development, we are way more vulnerable as children when we experience difficulties in our environment.
Okay. One of the big things we talk about with mental health and signs and symptoms of mental illness is isolation, self-isolation.
Yes.
And watching for those signs where people are pulling away from their support centers.
Yes.
We're in the midst of a pretty serious situation where isolation is a part of the directive.
Yes.
Tell me a couple of skills, if you can, that people might be able to put into place to help lower that anxiety. We've got a lot of people out of work. We've got a lot of people who are working, but are working in very high stress jobs because of the great need for their positions, and not really having time and shoving a lot of the things down that are being traumatic to them on a regular basis. How can people take some time each day and do some exercises or techniques that can help bring that level down?
And that's a wonderful point, because I think we're going to have a lot of suicidal attempts and throughout this just horrific time. So you have to understand one thing. When your nervous system, isolation equates to danger. Like human beings are social animals. We're mammals, so we need each other. We find your nervous system finds safety within numbers. So now that we have to be isolated at home, you are physically alone. Some people don't have even pets to be a companion for them. Mm-hmm. So, if we didn't have this, I would say, yes, you want to be with people. But now I say we have wonderful technologies, like people are using Zoom, a lot of Zoom. Mm-hmm. So connect with people, and it's even, if you don't have technology that you can see somebody else, call them on the phone. And you have one of the things about our nervous system, how human beings learn how to regulate their emotions, because we human beings are born without the ability of self-regulate, right? We don't know how to calm ourselves down. So we do that via attachment. So we do that via having our parent to give us signals of safety, so it helps our nervous system to regulate and to calm down. Well, some people don't have parents that are able to do that. And you have to understand that how we do it, we regulate with other people. If you have to self-regulate, you have to do all your regulation by yourself, you put a lot of stress on your body. So we need other people. And I would say, if you don't, I would prefer that people use FaceTime, because when I'm talking to you, when I'm looking at your face, my nervous system, it's responsible for the autonomic parts process in my body. It's getting signals from your nervous system safety. So if I call you, I say, Chris, I'm having a hard time. And you are very receptive. You're talking to me in a very melodic voice, in a soft, calm voice. Your cranial nerve, one of the cranial nerves that innervates the middle mass of your ear, is picking up those signals, the melody, the tone of your voice, and is calming my nervous system down. So when you call people and be nice. Do your sweet voice, do your kind voice. If you have a pet, touch your pet, hold your pet, talk to your pet, touch your pet. Do you know why? Dogs and cats, they're mammals, and they are regulators. They're co-regulators, so they help your nervous system to regulate. So much that we have studies that when they bring the dog into the room, it regulates the heart, the nervous system of the owner, so the owner's heart rate and blood pressure go down because they're natural co-regulators. So call people, be in touch with people, and do longer exhales. I'm very big in diaphragmatic breathing. So, for example, you can, if we do this, let's say let's do an exercise here, okay? So put your arms under your, behind your head, and extend your chest. You see, you're doing
I exhaled right away.
Yeah, exactly. You exhale. When we exhale, we engage the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is responsible for regulating, to putting a brake in your nervous system, so it helps your heart rate to slow down and your blood pressure to go down. So I would say you want to let's say inhale for 4 and exhale for 6, 7, because the longer the exhale, the longer the break that you have. So especially people with panic attacks, they're feeling like they're going to die. And how do they breathe? Yes. So you want to do the opposite.
Chest.
Exactly, from the chest and very shallow. So you want to do longer exhales. You want to trick your nervous system. You want to trick your body. You want to do longer exhales, because what happens, do a longer exhale. What do you have to do after? Automatically, you have to breathe. So when you're having a panic attack, if you try to pull in air, you're not going to do it because you can't, right?
Yep.
So you do the opposite.
Okay.
Because your body naturally has to inhale. So I say another thing that everybody can do, diaphragmatic breathing. And do you want another technique?
Yes,
There's several
yes.
more.
Let's
Okay,
do that.
so I do the body scan. Body scan is one that I really like because yes,
I'm
really
available
like.
for
Okay,
a body
so
scan.
so if you're home, because a lot of people are home now, you can lay. I would say put something on your knee, your knees that makes you feel very comfortable. Put your arms, like you said. You're like that.
out.
The body responds. You know, the body responds even to how we're sitting, how we're doing everything. So you cannot feel all anxious if you're like
So I'm
opening
not
up.
being closed off. My body is feeling a
Exactly.
sense
Think
of
about how
openness.
fighters do. Fighters, they're in a ring. How do they fight? Yes. And why do you do this?
Protection.
Protection. Do you see anybody in a ring like this?
Right.
No, you don't see people like that, right? But so when your body moves, your body tells your autonomic nervous system, tells your brain's messages that we are not aware, right? So you lay down, you relax, and you do your breathing, right? So you put your attention, and I would say close your eyes, because when we close our eyes, we turn the attention to inside. So close your eyes and start from your toes. So think about, okay, I'm here, relaxing, I'm breathing, I'm doing my longer exhales, and my attention is here on my body. Okay. And go through the parts of your body, checking in with your body. Ask your body, how do my toes feel? Oh, they're good. How are my feet feeling? And then if you find a part of your body that you have stress, let's say I found stress on my thighs. Mm-hmm. I want to say, oh, I recognize I hold stress there. You thank the stress. Thank you, body, for allowing me to see where I'm holding the stress there. There's a reason why, right? So you breathe, you exhale, you take a few breaths, longer exhales, and let go of that stress. And do that in every part of your body. And then when you get to your head, go back to your all the way back to your feet. What you did there, you're telling your nervous system you're safe. Because our nervous system, it's only in two places. Or it's feeling safe, or it's feeling danger, or life threat, right? So like when I talk about the nervous system with my clients, I do a ladder, and I tell them, if you are on top of your ladder, it means you're feeling safe. And what does it mean? It means I can see clearly, right? I can see the whole horizon. As soon as I go to the middle of my ladder, what does it mean? I can't see as well, right? Mm-hmm. So the nervous system, at the minute that it senses danger in environment, it can be real danger or perceived danger. People that suffer from trauma, what are they doing?
Are they re-perceiving what has happened?
They're perceiving danger, but their brain is not in the now. It's not in here. Their brains is back in the past. Yep. So they're relieving painful experience. The treatment for trauma really occurs by interoception. And the term is a little complicated, but it truly means it's paying attention to what's going on inside your body. So I like to use body scan for people because it kind of starts teaching them a process of meditation, a process of paying attention inside. If I pay attention inside, I can start regulating that. I can recognize where I'm holding that stress, and I can let it go. So interoception is about you bring the attention inside, you let that anxiety go, and it really is, you cannot have trauma in a muscle relaxed body. You can't. So learning how to let the stress go and to regulate your emotions, you are not going to be relieving those things because you can change the narrative of trauma. Let's say I learned how to emotionally regulate, how to keep my body relaxed. And then if I have, let's say, if I rethink about my painful experience, because I am in a relaxed muscle body, I free the energy, I free the neocortex of my brain so I can think clearly. Now I can actually, because when you feel activated, when you're anxious or depressed, the energy, your frontal, the thinking parts of your brain are gone.
Okay.
You're
so you can't access that.
Yes, you're reacting, you're operating from the brain stem or from your limbic system. And those are not thinking parts of your brain. Now, if your body's calm, you have more blood flow to your cortex. So now you can think creatively, and now you can realize, oh, I'm living in the present. Those experiences were in the past. So that's how you heal trauma. You heal trauma in a relaxed muscle body, revisiting the experience, and creating a new narrative in a relaxed muscle body because it changes your perspective.
So I love how you brought that in, and I want to, in the couple minutes we have left, I want to relate it to a situation that I went through. I travel around and speak about the trauma that I suffered and the mental illness and substance use disorder that I've dealt with all my life. So I don't have a secret with that, but there are people who have a hard time accessing that to bring it out. At 13, I had a sexual assault. And from that point, I was told much later on in life that my emotional growth was kind of stunted at that point because of this traumatic situation that my brain kind of, I always say it's like a pinball machine when you shake it and it tilts and your brain just goes, nope, game over right now. I'm not going to remember this for a period of time. And then the memory starts again. That trapped or repressed memory of that trauma that sometimes keeps people from working on that trauma later in life. How does the work that you do help them access those repressed thoughts to be able to bring them forward, to actually work on them, to heal from them?
Okay, so remember that I told you that I work a lot with emotion regulation. My goal is to help people to regulate their emotions, to be in a comfortable, relaxed muscle body. Trauma, when you think about the criteria B for PTSD is like flashbacks and and nightmares, right? When people, not everybody needs to go back and revisit their memories in order to heal from trauma. A lot of the bulk part of the trauma, when you do trauma work, is really helping people to achieve and to keep a relaxed muscle body. So sometimes people think, wow, but I don't want to do trauma work because I don't want to revisit my memories. And you don't necessarily have to revisit those memories. You can teach because we all hold the power for self-healing. I believe in every human being holds the power for heal themselves. My job as a clinician is to guide you, to help you, to put you in that space where you can do the self-healing. If you learn how to be in a relaxed muscle body, you are going to learn, you can heal yourself. And a lot of times you do trauma work, you don't even have to go back and do EMDR and reprocess their memories, because you can, you open up the energy, you activate the cortex, neocortex of your brain, the thinking part of your brain, and you can self-heal after you are able to keep your body in a relaxed muscle body.
I like it. I like it. I like how the connection from one area works with the other. It's such a big part of what we do. Tell people how they can find out more about the work that you do.
Yes, well, you can visit my website at www.medelatherapy.com. My number is 612-554-5899. And obviously, I do telehealth. That's how we're working now. And I'm working on doing video stream lectures in teaching people methods and strategies to self-regulate. So using Zoom, that's a good technology use.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you were here today to speak with us. I want to thank you especially for talking about the Vegas, because so many people don't, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I'm glad you're comfortable bringing it out.
Yes, I'm bringing the Vegas alive here.
My name is Chris Shaw from the Heart and Mind Connection. You can find out more about resources for mental health and wellness on our website, www.theheartandmindconnection.org. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you to our guest, Anna.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here for Seriously Mental.